Hello, 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 and welcome back to That Quirky Bird Girl. I am your host, Steph, and I have been talking about the past few weeks all about how to be authentic, how to be yourself, how to lean into you. I've talked about how I did it, but I haven't really gotten into the stuff that made it hard for me to do that. And I want to do that today by talking about my divorce. It's something I've alluded to on my page and talked about here and there, but I haven't really talked about it in full length and haven't really shared with you all what it is that's been going on in my life over the past year. So I'm going to get into that. And before I do, I want to also share with you all a brief update about the amazing travels that you will see on my page over the next few weeks. So I have headed over to San Francisco. So likely you've seen lots of my content over on TikTok and YouTube, all about my experience in San Francisco. I also had the opportunity to travel down to Florida, and I was incredibly lucky to do so, y'all. I saw a sandhill crane, and it was one of the most special moments I think that I've had with birds in a while. It was a moment where I was kind of second guessing whether or not I should walk up and see the birds because I was tighter on time. And it was kind of like a life altering moment for me. And I'll talk about that in future podcast episodes. But I just want you all to know that I am traveling more than usual now. So you may be seeing a little bit less temporarily of our New York City birds, but that doesn't mean I won't come back around to them. I love New York City. I live in New York City. This is one of the best cities in the world, and I have lived in quite a few, so I feel like I can say that. And I'm just obsessed with being here. I love the culture. I love that people are so hungry for more. They want opportunity. They want chance. They want to change. They want, people come to New York City for 100 different reasons, but at the end of the day, for some reason or another, they are a dreamer, and they're here because they see that dream, or because they see that maybe even different life for themselves that's out there in front of them. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm not leaving New York City, but I may be away for a little bit. That being said, I have some exciting travels coming up too towards the end of the year, and I'll be sharing about those all over my page as I get ready to announce them. So stay tuned for more. And on that note, y'all, if you have not gotten your That Quirky Bird Girl pin, the link is in my bio, and it's at the bottom of the description in this video or in this podcast episode. And you can literally get your pin shipped directly to you along with a personalized letter from me. This is a hard enamel pin. I spent so much time designing these, and they are my heart, blood, and soul, and I am so happy to share them with you all. So if you haven't checked them out, check them out. They're really high quality, and I'm only releasing this one set for a period of time, and then I'll be fleshing them out and through, and y'all will have a brand new pin to get, and this one's all gonna be done. So limited time, y'all. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty stuff that I actually would be more inclined to ignore talking about. When my parents were my age, they already had two children and were possibly thinking about having a third. They were married and soon to be divorced. And even they themselves might even say like they were not in love. And I think not having a certain degree of love growing up modeled in the way that it should be modeled, I think it kind of distorts your thinking around relationships. And I don't think people talk enough about the relationships that were forced that ultimately resulted in divorce. And obviously, we know those relationships are better off for the divorce. Those two people need to go their separate ways. Their lives have changed. They've changed. They shouldn't be together anymore. I know that's the case for my parents too. Arguably, they shouldn't have been together to begin with, but I am here nonetheless. So if I didn't necessarily have a positive relationship modeled for me, and then growing up seeing, one side of my parents' relationship that was a little bit more healthy and insight into that, I had like a distorted view of what a relationship should look like, or really rather than what it should look like, what it should feel like, how you should feel when you're with your person, what it feels like to be with your person. And I think that made me much more willing to accept things that shouldn't have ever been accepted. In the context of my relationship, there's a lot there. And there's a lot that I want to leave behind in my past. There's a lot that if I never talk about it again, I'll be a happy woman. Admittedly, this is really hard to talk about because it's something that happened so recent. My divorce filing literally happened 2 weeks ago, or official like completion date. So this is like really raw, and I'm trying to figure out how I can share with you all the degree that I want to share with you about a divorce and like going through those hard moments and what it looks like to really own your life after them, because that's a whole separate piece that I had to take control of. It was like I had to learn how to be me and how to embrace myself and how to be me again, because I had completely lost myself in the relationship. And when I say lost, I don't just mean like, oh, like I lost a personality trait or two. I literally did not know who I was after that relationship. It was like completely relearning myself. I had lost every single ounce of love that I had for myself. I gave it away to that person. And because at the time I felt like that's something you do. You compromise. That was something I was raised on. I saw my parents do that my whole life. Compromise. You compromise. And sometimes compromise isn't fair. And that's what I was always told. Compromise isn't fair. You just do it. Being the oldest of five, it was even more ingrained in me because I just knew like, okay, I have to give this inch, they give this inch, we give this inch, and then we meet each other in the middle. And oftentimes, like I look back at all the times at me thinking that there were circumstances of compromise. It actually wasn't compromise at all. What it was me abandoning myself for someone else. I was 16 years old when I met this person. They were 4 years older than me. And if you are someone who started a relationship young, or if you are someone who there is a significant age gap, I need you to be really, really careful. More careful than I was. And the reason why I say that is because even though it feels like there is so much love there and it can feel like a healthy relationship, I need you to sit down and ask yourself how you actually feel with this person. I need you to assign an emoji every single time you leave from seeing them. Once my therapist assigned that to me or told me that I needed to start doing that, I look back at the notion, and every single time I was with him, they were sad emojis. And I didn't even realize it. In my mind, I genuinely thought I was so happy, but it was like distorted. Like it wasn't even reality. It wasn't even that I was genuinely happy. It was that I was so committed to the idea of being happy that I couldn't let go of the fact that I was so painfully sad every single time I was with him. I was angry that I was with him. I didn't like being with him. He wasn't someone that inspired me, and I didn't inspire him. He wasn't someone that made me feel like I could show up as a better person the next day. And that's not what a relationship is all about. But those things are pretty damn important. I made a video on TikTok the other day talking a little bit about the way in which my ex-husband supported me, and he didn't. He didn't. And I know that's confusing, and I know that might read a certain way. Like, you spent 10 years together. How can it be that way? Because yes, we did spend 10 years together. But I had no autonomy in the relationship, and I really struggled to be able to create space for myself. And once I started really expressing my love for birds and started sharing it online, it almost was like I became too big for the house. Like I became too big for him. And at that point, it was all about figuring out like, okay, how do I make myself smaller? How do I make myself? And that is something I will never, 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 ever do again, because I made myself so powerfully tiny just so that he could feel like he was in control. Because that was the thing, like when you're in these types of relationships, those people have to feel like they're in control all of the time, at all times. If they're not in control, it sets their own nervous system off. So us now not allowing them to be in control is almost like a failure on our own behalf as the partner to this person. But that's actually not the case. And once I started breaking down what was going on in my relationship and what it was that I was seeing, I realized that like I can't continue in this. It's not something that I, one, would ever be happy in. It's two, if my sisters, I have two sisters, if my sisters were in that relationship, oh my God, I would be driving who knows how many hours. It doesn't even freaking matter. I would drive and I would drive the other side all the way back, two-way. I don't care. I would get my sisters out of that because it was not okay and I was not seeing clearly and I didn't recognize how much danger I was in. And that's not something I'm going to elaborate on further right now, maybe in the future, but that was the reality of my situation. And when I was leaving that, I had a decision. Okay, Steph, like you can either stay in Chicago or you can go to New York City. And I had a job at the time that was wanting me to move to New York City. So I made the decision. I said, I'm going to make the bet on myself. So I'm going to go to New York City. I go to New York City. I get here. It still isn't hitting me yet that I just left behind a whole entire life in Chicago. It's like this level of like, I know I like cognitive dissonance where I couldn't even like recognize the fact that I was running from this relationship and running rightfully so. I don't blame that version of me that was running. I think she ran because she had to. She ran because it was the only choice, but she ran. And for a long time, I wrestled with that because I've been a long-term runner. When something happened, I left or I would leave. And there were so many circumstances in my life where I've done that and I've had to do that, not because I've necessarily chosen to do so, but because the circumstances literally forced me to do so. So in that case, I just like kept going back and forth. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I walking away from this with a steady mind? And at the end of the day, the more time that gets passed away from it, the more time that I sit and reflect on the experiences that I had, I genuinely think that I don't realize how much I needed to get out of that relationship and how much I had lost within myself that I needed to actually work on regaining. And it's been a year since I've left that relationship, well over a year actually. But I still am working on finding myself every single day. And admittedly, I told someone this the other day, like, I hope that never stops. I hope I continue working on myself. I hope that I continue pushing myself. I hope that I show up as a more polished version of myself or a more clear version, more aligned version of myself every single day. But there was a period of time where doing that work genuinely hurt because every single time I leaned into myself and every single time I told me that it was okay to be myself and that I could express that and that I could really truly live in my own version of authenticity, like it was a constant battle with my ex. Like, and he wasn't even a part of the battle. That doesn't mean that he was like involved. Trust. I blocked him the second I left. Okay. There was no contact. And that is what I believe you should do. If you are walking away from a relationship, you got a cold cut. You got a cold cut. This might be the Capricorn in me, but there's no communication that needs to be had. It's an immediate block. If we are done and there was a level of intimacy, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to talk to you. We're not friends. We're not buddies. We're not pals. We're not anything. Okay. Our story has ended. You've ceased to exist. That chapter is closed. There's no revisiting. There's no interview down the line. I don't care. I don't care about your story. Go live your own life. We are living our own lives. I wish you the best, of course, but it's no longer part of my concern how you live your life. And so I blocked him. But every single time I would come back to this level of authenticity and like, am I being myself? Am I being me? Am I being holistic? Am I being kind to both the people that I am in front of as well as myself? Like it was this constant, just like internal war and battle and just like layer of exhaustion that I had that it was like, I couldn't break through to myself. It was like I was so ashamed that I had spent so long avoiding myself and so long just sitting with my feelings and sitting with who I was and sitting with how I felt about everything that had happened leading up to that point. Because, mind you, this was a 10-year-long relationship. A lot of shit happened that shouldn't have happened. A lot. And if I were to go back now, my part in those things, like I would absolutely change them. But at the end of the day, what happened was like clinical. And I'm not going to talk about it here, but there's a lot in that story. And there's a lot that I had to heal from, a lot of PTSD that I had to recover from and move through. And I don't think I'm 100% recovered from it, but at least I'm able to talk about it here. And I'm able to share with you all about how I am navigating it, because it is a constant, like, daily thing that I'm questioning with my authenticity. And I think the only thing that has really pulled me out of the depths of constantly questioning myself and constantly questioning my authenticity and questioning if I am truly meant to be doing the things that I'm doing, why am I coming back to this person's voice who never believed in me to begin with? And it would start this cycle of like shame, frustration, anger, annoyance, because that was very key for me, annoyance. I would get very annoyed with myself and the circumstances that I was in. Some form of release, whether it be crying, writing, creating a TikTok about it, any sort of like externalization of the feeling and of the experience. And then I would get to a place where, okay, finally, now I can express myself more authentically, or I can live more in my truth. And having to go through just every single day, it felt like 3 to 4, 5 times a day that I was like constantly going through all of these ups and downs, and I was exhausted, y'all. And on top of that, there was the betrayal that I was processing, the pain, the genuine like pain of being abandoned in a way you never thought you would be abandoned. It sucked. It really sucked. And I tried to move through it as gracefully as I could, but sometimes like things are messy. And I used to say all the time, like, I'm so messy, I'm so messy. And I had a friend who would say, like, I am too. I am too. I'm messy too. And I'm so lucky that I got to hear that from her, because I don't think that if I heard that other people are navigating the world in a way that felt so messy and so chaotic, I genuinely don't. I felt so alone. I felt so alone at that time, that like being able to acknowledge that someone else was in a similar messy boat than I was, like I couldn't do it on my own. Like I couldn't, like I needed someone to sit there and tell me like, hey, I am messy too, and we're going. It's okay to be messy in front of me. And I needed that. I needed to hear that. I needed to feel some sort of safety, some sort of alleviation from what it was that I was feeling. So I talked a lot about community last week, and I think I don't I know that I wouldn't have been able to get through what I was going through without the people in my life that held my hand along the way. There were people who would call me and talk to me on the phone at my lowest. There were people who would raise me up and make me laugh and make me feel like I was on top of the clouds and nothing was wrong, and divorce wasn't even on my mind. And I was so lucky to have those people in my life that really made it feel lighter. And the only thing that actually enabled them to do that for me was me picking up the phone and calling them. A lot of times we think like, this person knows what I'm going through, so they should just reach out to me. And that's honestly what I did think. I sat there for a very long time thinking, wow, like they know what I'm going through. Why aren't they reaching out to me? Why aren't people I love like asking me how things are going, how I'm doing? Do they not care about me? But it's not that. People have so much going on in their day-to-day lives, and I'm the type of person, and I knew this about myself, so I don't know if it's true for you, but it absolutely is for me, that oftentimes people can't tell when I'm going through a really hard time, because I carry my pain like a shield, you know? The past year, if you were to scroll through my content without actually clicking into any of the videos, you wouldn't have probably been able to even tell that I was going through a divorce. You wouldn't have been able to tell I was all of the things, all of the horrible things that I was going through. Like you wouldn't even notice. And that's kind of who I am. Like I'm someone who, even when the road is rocky, like I'm flattening it, or I'm figuring out a way to ride it smoothly so that at least on the outskirt, the passengers are experiencing smooth. And if I have to experience rocky roads on the way back, or if I have to, I don't know, like hitchhike or something, then like that's what I have to do. But as long as the people externally, the people who are around me are experiencing something different in my presence, then like that's all I hope for. And I can go home happily with that. That's living in my authenticity for me, making other people feel happy and feel emotions that they didn't feel like they could be connected to. That's my whole like mission in life. That's what I do literally this content for. That's what I do everything for. And it's such a beautiful endeavor and such a beautiful mission. But at times it felt really difficult to reconcile that version of me, the version that everyone else in my life was seeing, this happy go lucky, excited, ambitious person online talking about birds and having the time of their life. Meanwhile, I'm behind that camera editing and crying myself to sleep every single night because I can't handle the emotions that are on my shoulders. I struggled so much with having the simple conversations of just saying, hey, listen, I am going through a hard time and I really just want to talk to you. I want to talk about it. I want to create space for it. That shit, yo, was so hard to do. It was so hard. It took like the mightiest of mighty forces inside of me. Not only there were a few times where I even had to ask people to come visit me because I was so unwell, because I was so exhausted by life and I was feeling so let down and so upset and so like, and I did that 3 times. I did it 3 times. And guess what? It was one of the only things that kept me above water. Reaching out, asking for help, asking for support, asking to have hard conversations, calling my friends when I'm crying, when I can't keep myself above water. Oftentimes, I can do anything myself. That's what I tell myself. I say, I can do anything. I don't need anyone. I'm perfectly fine. I'm happy rising myself way up to the top all on my own. Like, that's just kind of like the motto that I've lived by my whole entire life. I'm the oldest of 5. I've had to be independent my whole entire life. Like, what's different now? I live in New York City, one of the most arguably like quintessential cities that embodies the American culture of independence, like hyper independence, if anything. And I just feel like I've really tried to like live through that and really tried to embrace a lot of that. And it hasn't been perfect, but I'm doing it. And at least like I look back at those moments when I really needed help and I really needed support and I made that call. I made those calls, even though it was so hard and tested me to my core. It tested me to my core because it was like, not only did I have to reach out for help, but I had to give that moment of like pause before you're actually hearing back from the person that you just reached out and asked to help for. Underrated how difficult it is to sit through that moment because, oh my God, it was so hard. It was so hard because I was like, oh my God, I'm asking for so much. I'm demanding a lot. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? How are they going to react? I had all these things spiraling in my mind. And most of the times the message I got back was like, of course, I'll call you in 5. Of course, I'll be there for you. Of course, of course, of course, of course, of course. I even one time to that message, to one message, I even got a text reply back sending a flight ticket for someone to come visit me. Like it truly doesn't get more community loving than that. And I was so lucky that I got that like reflection back on because it was like, okay, perfecto. Like I can now have the support that I need to really process through what it is that I was processing. And it honestly, it took me about like 6 months to get to a place where I could even ask for help to the first person. So I asked for help. It like completely sent shockwaves through my entire experience because I got to hear the way that people in my life, the people that love me, were talking about me. And in my mind, I was talking about myself like, ugh, this is so annoying. Why do I have to go through this? All this betrayal. It's my fault. It's this. You blame yourself 1,000 times over and over and over again. It's just the process. It has nothing to do with you. Okay. Maybe there are things you can take accountability for and change. Sure, you're welcome to do that. But what I was doing was a shame spiral. It wasn't taking accountability. It wasn't feeling guilty for what had happened. It was literally making myself feel worse about what had happened and reacting based off that, which is it's never good. It's never good to do that because you're reacting from a place of self first. If I'm going to genuinely change something about how I'm reacting or how I'm behaving or how I'm showing up for someone in my life, then I'm not going to do it for myself. I'm doing it for them. Oftentimes it does in the end become for myself because it ends up being a trait that I can reflect on into my other relationships and it ends up being something more positive. But at the end of the day, it's the extension of love that I have for them that allows me to want to make that change, to make that adjustment. So asking for help was really monumental in my whole entire experience. And I'm really, really, really glad that I did it because without it, I wouldn't be here today. Honestly, I don't think if I didn't have those people in my lives, that community and creation of that community, because mind you, I also created it over here on TikTok, doing lives weekly and engaging in the comments and the likes and the chat and having this podcast. I genuinely think it has saved my life. Like, I don't think that I would be sitting in front of you all today if I hadn't leaned into content creation. I was having such a hard time last November. And to get a little sappy with you all, maybe not even sappy, maybe just a little sad. Like, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it out of that month. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to make it out of that month. I was going through a really, really, really rough patch, and I was isolating myself because I didn't know how to do anything else. And I was really sad, and I felt embarrassed, and I felt ashamed for the way that my life had taken a turn. A lot of big things had happened to me and had made it really hard for me to continue loving myself. And coming here on this podcast and on my TikTok and on my YouTube and really building those out allowed me to see that I am lovable, I am kind, I am caring, I am all of these things that I had somehow lost touch with who I was. And that didn't come until December, when I really, really, really needed it. When I hit that live button and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Even though it scares me, even though it genuinely terrifies me to go live and talk to strangers and have no idea what could be the next thing that they say out of their mouth, because it's literally a live show. It's literally a live show. Like, I'm going live and I'm just reacting to the community that I've built. And, you know, oftentimes you've seen creators where that goes wrong and where people have failed to show up for their community. So I'm lucky in that I was able to have access to TikTok and continue building the community, y'all. We just hit 5,000, which is such a big and important milestone for me. I mean, I have been building this page up from zero. I just had a friend tell me the other day that they saw my page, or they remember my page when I was in the hundreds. And now the fact that it's at 5,000, and I have so many amazing community members that I love so dearly. And it has been so amazing to get to know everyone and to really have people that I can care so deeply for without it. There's no, like, without it feeling like there were blockers. Like, it just, I feel like I've created a friendship with a lot of my following, and it's just felt really, really special. So I think community and following just really has made such a difference for me in particular. But if you're someone who's going through a divorce right now and you look around you and you don't see anyone, trust, I looked around and I did not see anyone either. I promise you, those people are there. It's about finding them. The second I started opening up to my friends about the pain that I was experiencing, it almost allowed them to be better friends for me and enabled them to show up and show their love and show their care in a way that I hadn't felt from them ever. And so it was kind of a shocking experience, but it was a very beautiful experience. So empower the people in your life to show you love, because that is what is going to make the difference for you in genuinely finding community. Really, if you're going through something like a divorce or like a breakup, that's going to be the difference or the key for you in breaking free of maybe some shame or some pain that you're holding on to. If you're holding on to any, I hope you're not, but we've all got pain that we've littered with our past, and they say hurt people hurt people. So in an attempt to not hurt people, I'm going to process it. And that's what I've been doing. And I think, you know, acknowledging that I have been such a runner in my past enables me to say, like, listen, I don't want to be that today. I have a choice, and it's that I don't want to run from these feelings anymore. I want to sit in them and acknowledge them and feel them and not be burdened constantly by the level of just pain that I was feeling, because it was so immense. But once I started feeling it, it felt like just like these little click check marks of like things that I was check, 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 check. I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. And I felt so much better. And just with time, it continued to improve. So I'm incredibly lucky that that's the case. I I hope you all can find the level of peace that I am aiming for or I am searching for. I feel like every day I come back to my own degree of peace and it's been lovely, but I hope that you all can find that as well because it is something that is so special and so cherished. And going through a divorce or any big life change, any big move even, is incredibly drastic and it's hard to continue to put yourself out there. But I really, really, really hope that you do keep doing it because while it is hard, it is an entirely worthwhile endeavor and showing people that you can show up for yourself and forgive yourself for something maybe not working out because that was something that was also really big for me is like forgiving the fact that my marriage was ending, forgiving the fact that I had come from a divorced family and now I too am a divorcee. Like, what the hell? This is the last thing someone who is a divorced child wants, to be dealing with a divorce. Are you kidding me? That's like anti. And it felt like a lot. And I don't know. Divorce is really hard, y'all, regardless of whether or not you came from a divorced family. But when you come from a divorced family, it's almost like in the attempt of avoiding something so deeply, you actually find yourself in the same scenario you worked so hard to avoid. And everyone, every single person on this planet, your parents can be as amazing as you want them to be and as perfect, but we all carry things from our parents that did or didn't happen. And oftentimes it's about what didn't happen. And for me, I think I wished that there was more support post-divorce because in my world, when the divorce ended, it's almost like my life ended. As you can see, like I love to collect plushes as a kid. It was something that I collected too. So when the divorce happened, those all went away. I don't know where they went, but they weren't mine. My life got divided into two households, which eventually became three, which eventually became four. And my mom was moving around constantly, and my dad was also moving. And it was like over the course of over the course of like 10 years, I had lived in 8 different homes and constantly toggling between one and the other and the other and the other. It's like, it was exhausting. And that's why I say, like, my world kind of ended because it was like whiplash constantly. And as someone who's autistic, like, your constant changing environment is really, really, really hard. I had no say in my childhood. And what it looked like, it was just shut up and put up, keep going. You just gotta keep going. That's all we know. Okay. That's all we know. So that's all I knew, just to keep going. And so when my divorce was happening, it was like, oh my God, my world is ending. It's just like that again. And here comes the chaos and here comes the fear. Here comes me not being in control. I have no idea what's going to happen next. And I'm probably going to say and do the wrong thing. And my life is going to fall apart and it didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. Things got infinitely better in my life once the divorce happened. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's not what my mind told me. My mind told me that, hey, you know what happens when divorce happens. So when divorce happens, that means that your life falls apart. So what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to make your life not fall apart? Oh my God, that's so much pressure. I was putting so much pressure on myself. And for what? But that's what having these like core experiences in your childhood can do to impact you and your behavior today. I mean, I was constantly cycling through that thought of like, oh my God, and like I put myself in a position where I was constantly like exhausted by my own behavior, by my own self. And it was upsetting and daunting. And I didn't know what the next step of my life would look like. And there are times even today where I don't know what the next steps of my life will look like, but it's not like when I was a kid. It's not the same anymore. When I was a kid, I had no say over where I was going. My parents were managing the house, managing the finances. They were sharing what they needed to share, blah, blah, blah. I'm an adult now and I have control over my living circumstances and I have control over where I work and what work I do, what makes me passionate, what's making me excited, what drains me, I have all of these, like, it's just a significant level of choice that I have all around me that I can do anything I set my mind to. The world is literally my oyster catcher, and I could do any catching that I so please. It's not like when I was a kid and I would sit on my bed and I had Hannah Montana everywhere on my wall because I was obsessed with her and I just loved her so much. It's not like that anymore. I'm that girl that's got nerve. I'm that girl that's breaking out of this divorce and I get to decide what it looks like. And it's this empowering experience. And once I started seeing it as that, as something that was actually different from my childhood experience, that's when it started being empowering. And that's when I started actually loving the fact that I was getting divorced. I was very happy after that point to be getting a divorce and I was ready for the freedom. I'm very happy with the fact that it's now ended and I get to live my life and I get to do whatever it is that I want to do. And in a lot of ways, I'm lucky that it ended so like, there are people whose divorces drag out for years and years and years, and that wasn't the case for mine. So very lucky, very, very glad that things worked out the way that they did for the better of myself. But there were a lot of steps that I had to take to heal throughout, and I don't think that if I ignored and didn't allow myself to process any of these things, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today. I wouldn't be talking about this. So I hope this helps you all, and I want to hear like what you all are doing, what you've got going on, if there's anything similar to this story that I've shared today about my divorce. Obviously, as you all know, I'll continue to share more and more as time goes on, as I get more comfortable. But it has been so lovely to share with you all this story and tools and tips and tricks that can help you on getting through your divorce, getting through a massive betrayal, because it's not easy. It feels easy at times, and it feels like you're just moving through life and trying your best and messy, but that's because it's supposed to be. Just keep going, keep believing that there is a better day out there for tomorrow, because every day is a great day to be a great day. And it is time for you to catch that oyster catcher, honey. It's waiting for you, and I know you can do it. I believe in you. If you're having a hard time, just know you're not alone. There are so many other people that are struggling these days, and in having conversations and opening up windows for them to share their struggle as well, it's going to help all of us really just pull each other in even closer. So I love you. Thank you for watching this podcast episode. Like I said, be sure to get your pin, subscribe, hit that follow button if you haven't already, y'all. I'm going to continue creating content. You've got lots more coming from me. I love you so, so dearly, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.